Hi guys, Amy Peikoff here. Gonna check my audio settings and make sure I'm doing this right. I just wanted to share with you some thoughts that I had after watching a montage of interactions between Rand Paul and Anthony Fauci about the issue of gain of function research in Wuhan and whether the NIH funded it, whether Fauci had been lying about it previously. I had this thought that I hope you will find useful, and I think I've figured out technically how to share this best with you. I'm going to go ahead and share part of my screen here so that you can see the video that we're going to play some little clips of. And I'm going to play the particular part of the exchange that has the language that gave this thought to me that I'm going to share with you. I will put the link to the entire exchange between the two of them below. Probably you've seen it before if you're watching this video now and you're interested in this issue, but just in case you haven't, it will be there, and you can also remind yourself. So let me go ahead, and I think I do have to rewind it a tiny bit now that I've on my third take. Let me see here.
A considerable amount.
Yeah, let me rewind it a tiny bit. So if you recall, Rand Paul was accusing Fauci of lying about whether the NIH had funded gain of function research at his approval, direction, et cetera. And kept asking him, are you going to take responsibility for this? Let's listen to what Fauci says in response.
First of all, gain of function is a very nebulous term. We have spent, not us, but outside bodies.
Okay, stop right there. So he's going to go into a definition of gain of function research that he thinks that Rand Paul should accept. And he's careful to say that it's not them, him, NIH, that have put forth this definition, but it's outside bodies that have done this. Now, if you've read Kennedy's book about Fauci and you are aware of the amount of research funding that is under his control, the idea of saying that there's anything that's fully outside bodies and over which he doesn't have influence is pretty silly. But anyway, just wanted to point that out. Let's go on.
Considerable amount of effort to give a more precise definition to the type of research that is of concern that might lead to a dangerous situation.
So see, he already wants to narrow the definition to be the type of research that is of concern, because he wants you to accept the idea that the whole purpose of defining gain of function research is to identify the dangerous type of this. There's you could say maybe there's a broader definition of gain of function research, and then maybe there's this narrower definition that's the stuff that we really care about. And so we only want to worry about that. So, that's where he's already kind of narrowing your focus.
You are aware of that. That is called P3CO. We're aware that you deleted gain of function from the NIH website.
Okay, so that little exchange is just Fauci throwing some acronyms at him to try to intimidate him. And then Rand Paul is saying, we're not going to accept this because you did this, thing which is not very forthcoming, which is to actually change a definition on the website in the middle of this dispute, which of course always makes you look bad if you change a definition in order to support your side of the argument, right? Okay, we'll let Fauci talk some more.
In a moment, if we have time. But let's get back to the operating framework and guide rails of which we operate under.
Okay, so he's tripping over his words a little. He uses the word operate a couple times. You can tell that there's going to be a little bit of definitional sleight of hand coming. Let's see what it is.
And you have ignored them. The guidelines are very, very clear that you have to be dealing with a pathogen that clearly is shown and very likely to be highly transmissible in an uncontrollable way in humans and to have a high degree of morbidity and mortality, and that you do experiments to enhance that, hence the word EPPP.
Okay, so he's laying out this framework that he wants you to accept as the understanding of gain of function research for purposes of determining whether or not he lied. So it has to be highly transmissible among humans. It has to have high morbidity and lethality. And then you were doing research on that sort of virus to enhance the function of it. So unless you have all three of those, then you shouldn't think of it as gain of function research technically, according to these outside authorities. So what is going on here, right? He thinks he's right. And of course, Rand Paul thinks he's right. And I think in a certain way, they're both right, technically, right? And let's see what the good news out of this. The good news out of this is, if we were thinking that Anthony Fauci is behind some sort of research that is deliberately trying to create a dangerous virus, or even some people talking conspiracy theories about a bioweapon, et cetera, I don't think that that's what's going on here based on what Fauci is saying. What I think is that they have put forth this very narrow definition of what would qualify as gain of function research. It's not gain of function research unless you have a virus that is highly transmissible and of high morbidity and lethality. Otherwise, it's okay to perform research that enhances the function of a virus that doesn't meet those other two prongs. That's what Fauci wants you to think. And that's why he thinks he can say that he never lied about supporting gain of function research. But so what's the error theory here, right? If he's not deliberately doing something, what I think happened, again, we don't know for sure that the virus was, in the lab in Wuhan and that it leaked out of there, et cetera, but it seems fairly likely that it was. My theory is that it was there. They thought that it was either not highly transmissible, or probably more likely they thought it was fairly transmissible, but they didn't think it was of high morbidity or lethality. And what they did is underestimate the extent to which people in the world, but particularly Americans and people in Western nations, are metabolically unhealthy, and therefore the virus, they didn't know, did have enough of a morbidity and lethality to cause all of the hospital overwhelm and tremendous suffering and even a lot of death. What I would have liked to have seen is Rand Paul actually sort of pick apart that and say, okay, so you were funding this research on a virus that maybe was more contagious than you thought, or more lethal than you thought. It had more morbidity and lethality attached to it, particularly with respect to our population as it actually exists in the real world. What if they had this exchange about that? And what if we forced Anthony Fauci to say, yeah, we did mess up, mea culpa? Because I do think that Fauci is trying to avoid taking responsibility, and he's doing it based on this difference in definitional understanding that he knows exists between him and Rand Paul. And as it stands right now, they're just talking at cross purposes. So anyway, I hope you found that thought of mine helpful. Again, I don't think that Fauci was setting out to do experimentation on something that he actually thought was highly infectious or dangerous or whatever. But Rand Paul is exactly right that the danger of this type of research is that the people doing it are underestimating how infectious or how lethal or morbid or high morbidity the virus would be in the real world. And as a result, we have the pandemic today. So if you do find this helpful, please go ahead and give me a rumble, a like, a share, a subscribe, whatever you can do. And I will talk to you next time. Let me go ahead and unshare the screen because that's what I have to do to stop recording. Take care, everybody.